Hello, there's no downtime in the world of football, but today we're blooding in a fresh face. But the man on my left here is no anonymous trialist. It's Friday and it's Game On, your weekly fire podcast, which gets to the heart of the issue with all the big talking points in a bite-sized format. Welcome all regular viewers and listeners. As I've said already, the man to my left is Ryan McDonald, who's making his debut. Is there any pre-match nerves?
Yep, as I said to you before coming on there, I feel as if I'm in the dentist chair right now, ready for a fill-in.
But that's it. And the good news as well, we'll get some rugby coming later on, which I know you'll look forward to that. Yep. The Club World Cup has been flying under the radar, but our friends in marketing tell us our ugly mugs haven't been on YouTube. So that's been good news at least, and we're ready to get started. Are you ready for some Game On?
Yep, I'm ready.
Excellent. So we'll kick things off at Ibrox. It's been a manic start. At the start of the week, the new owners outlined their plans, but let's look first of all at the transfer. Hamza, who's a target for Lille. Marseille also understood to be interested. For a player who came from nowhere last year to now on the verge of a really significant fee for a club who are looking to become a club that specialises in selling players for profit, what would be an acceptable fee for Igaman for Rangers to sell this summer?
I think anything upwards of £15 million would be great business for Rangers. I mean, what did they sign him for? Sign him for like 1.7 or something along the lines of that last year. So that's incredible markup, incredible business. I think it's going to be a slow process, this rebuild for Rangers. So if you can get that amount of money in the first window, then I think you've got to take it. I don't think there's any untouchables in that Rangers squad just now.
Not even Nico Raskin?
No, he's got 2 years left in his contract. If he doesn't sign a new contract, then Rangers need to cash in. Look what happened with Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos, John Lundstrom, even Borna Barisic. It's endless. Rangers need to. They've got shrewd owners in place now, and they need to follow Celtic's act by cashing in when the time's right.
I've got to give a shout out to Record Sport columnist Tam McManus, because he put, I think he went studs up last night and saying he's a player that maybe Igaman, he doesn't really do it for him.
Yeah.
So I don't need to play devil. I can just use what Tam said. Do you think there is an element that he is a player who you could make a 6-minute, the streets won't forget highlights and nutmegs and flicks? Does he do it in complete games? And is this actually really good business for Rangers owners straight away?
I mean, I think he had a purple patch, didn't he? I mean, I remember that hat trick at Easter Road. I think it might even been a perfect hat trick. He was in phenomenal form at that point. He did fall out of the team under Barry Ferguson, especially towards the end. I'm not sure the reasons for that. He was played out of position at times as well. So I think if you've, on the basis of what he's shown, he's got bundles of potential, but on the basis of what he's shown in his first season when he has played, then I think £15 million, you've got to just bite the hand off that. And if they can sneak in a sell-on fee, which you've seen Celtic profit from with Virgil van Dijk, Jeremy Frimpong, and there'll be others as well, then even better business for Rangers.
Definitely. To say with Igaman, the one thing I've been really impressed with, it's not even the goal, it's those moments in game where he takes it into his body and up the line and wins throw-ins by he's just a proper talent. I think the next manager who looks after him has got a real job to bring it out every week. But if you do, like you say, the sell-on fee could be really important for them as well. So here we go. We're going across the M8 to Edinburgh. Tony Bloom, his investment, 10 million investment in Hearts, is complete. And for a man who's a poker player, he's not scared to roll the dice. And he wants to disrupt Scottish football. Celtic Rangers have won the league for the last 40 years. He wants to be the first man to lead a team that can stop that or mastermind. Will he be able to do that? Is he able to do that?
Talk about being a poker player. I'm willing to put my mortgage on it that Celtic and Rangers will continue to dominate for the rest of my lifetime. I can't see it. I think, yes, I wish I had a penny for every time I've heard Jamestown Analytics. He comes in with an impressive CV. The work that he's done at Brighton's been exceptional.
Is there an argument? How Tony Bloom, Brighton, they're lauded, right? But is there maybe come to a point with a team like Brighton where all these years in there is no cup?
Yes.
There's not Champions League football. It's not been that. Even Nottingham Forest came closer to doing it. But then the counter argument is the work in Belgium, a title win there. Is that more similar to what Hearts will have to do? Is it enough to find far-flung gems, say, over Europe, or is Derek McInnes maybe the thing that will help him more than anything to having a manager like that?
I don't know. I mean, Stuart Finlay, that's Derek McInnes signing. The signings in January, I think we're kind of some of them are well known in Scotland as well. I don't know. I think the jury's still out. Obviously, it's a long-term project. We'll see what Hearts are made of this year. Derek McInnes will be under pressure to lead Hearts to third place. Certainly not a bottom six finish like last year. And I suppose the only way we can really judge it is, one, when the transfer window closes, and two, maybe around the Christmas period, see how Hearts are shaping up. But I don't think it's going to take, for someone to properly challenge Celtic and Rangers, I don't think it's going to take 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 million pounds. I think it just takes having the right people in the right places, the infrastructure in the club. I think shrewd signings as well. And if Hearts can show a bit of ambition by maybe, pushing their wage budget a wee bit further, getting that higher calibre of player in, then, I don't think it's going to take an astronomical amount of money. It's a two-horse league race.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And when you're saying you don't think it will happen, I think that's the one element that could. Imagine you got the 4 best signings all in the one summer, and you just had this crest of a wave team. That's what I think Tony Bloom offers. And we're just looking at his time at Brighton. There's been a lot of good work. But I think with a team like Hearts, where if you're signing under the radar players, there might be that less instant transfer vultures around them. You might be able to get 2 seasons at a proper team. And Derek McInnes, probably, what a story to beat finally. Imagine Derek McInnes win the Scottish Premiership. Yeah. Always underrated manager. What a moment it'd be. So talking about disruptors, we're not talking about Ryan and I here. We're going back to Glasgow to Messrs Kavanagh and Marat. Introducing Monday, showed off their blue sky vision for Rangers, and the reviews were universally welcomed. I think the most impressive point of both was their understated nature. They weren't trying to shout for the rooftops, but they've got a plan for Rangers. They want to go from second to first, and they're ready to try and change Rangers' fortunes in the Scottish Premiership. Is it going to happen straight away? And if it does, are they able to dislodge Celtic as the top team in Scotland permanently, or will any success be fleeting?
Growing up in the Glasgow Goldfish Bowl, we're always told that it's like a big wheel. Celtic will dominate for a period and Rangers will dominate for a period. Celtic's dominance is unprecedented at the minute. Yes, Rangers disrupted their dominance by stopping 10 in a row. You talk about fleeting success. That was fleeting. They missed a chance there to build in that and really, overthrow Celtic. I can't see this rebuild. I can't see Rangers, dethroning Celtic as champions in the next year at least. I think this season it's going to be a slow process. I think Celtic are going to, people forget Celtic have got millions in the bank as well. They're going to have to spend. They've spent it on Arnie Engels, £11 million. Adam Eden, £9 million. They could, there's a marquee signing ready for Celtic as well. With Rangers, I think it's going to be a slow process. They need to just get the everything in place behind the scenes with the coaching staff. I mean, Russell Martin's not finalised his coaching staff yet. They're still appointing people behind the scenes as well. So I think that it's going to be a slow process, and I think maybe a year or two settling in period will be required.
Yeah, I keep thinking with Marat, I think he speaks incredibly well. Someone who likes American football. He's got a great name in that world, and I think quite an original thinker. He's shown that at Leeds United as well. And I believe there's an element here at Rangers that obviously Andrew Kavanagh's come in, but to have someone with this knowledge next to him, I think they'll be willing to try. In a city where it's always about win now, I think their ability to think
longer term
differently, can pay off in a way that probably we aren't used to. It might not come straight away, as you say, but I think there is definitely potential for maybe a new style of club. You go, that's the way that Rangers side did it, and maybe that ushers in a new way of thinking. So here we go. The first sign of the Rangers era is Max Aarons. Highly regarded right back who broke through at Norwich, made his name at Bournemouth, but he's struggled for game time at Bournemouth. A loan away now at Rangers. Is he a statement signing, and is he exactly what Russell Martin wants? Is this the sign of things to come? Established Premier League level players? Is it going to be more of this at Rangers, do you think, in the coming months and years?
I think specifically on Max Aarons, I think it's a signing that Rangers and their fans have been crying out for. James Tavernier's been an incredible servant to the club. He's been absolutely phenomenal. His numbers speak for itself. He's a captain. I think he gets a bit too much stick at times. But
is it time up for James Tavernier?
Now, that's what I was going to say. I think he's going into his final season. He's due a testimonial. I think this could be, the final months of James Tavernier's Rangers career, I think this is a sign that Max Aarons could be ready to come in and really take over his spot. I don't think Russell Martin played with James Tavernier at Rangers, so I don't think he's going to be completely frozen out. I still think he'll have a part to play, but he's not going to play week in, week out this season going forward. And the signing of Max Aarons, like you say, is a statement of intent.
Yep. And the thing with Tavernier especially is he's a man that's always been able to adapt to many managers, formations, different. To be fair, his role's always been the same, get up the pitch. But he has actually played pretty well central defensive role. Do you know, it'd probably be a help. See the Kieran Tierney Scotland role? Mm-hmm. I think on the right side of a back three, that would really help James Tavernier. But it does feel like the end of his era, where there's a testimonial incoming. It just feels the right time. And if it is less games, maybe that makes a better. I think he probably does play too much football anyway. I think he has for a number of years. I think it's a difficult place. But I think Max Aarons, to be fair, is a proper player. Like, there's no doubt. And at his age, in the way he spoke about Russell Martin, they spent time together at Norwich. I think he really wants to be here. I think he wants to work under Russell Martin. It feels like an obvious sign, and it's an upgrade signing. You don't see a lot of that in Scottish football anymore, where Tavernier's been a great player, but Max Aarons, in his current age and profile, is a better option.
What I'll say is it's going to be a player that Rangers fans are going to fall in love with.
Exactly.
And there's no buy on. There's no option to buy at the minute, so it could be a one-season wonder. But if he's half as good as Sima and Tierney, then I think Rangers fans will be happy with that.
Oh, definitely. And then across the city, another signing, Benjamin Nygren, a player. I think this is where money and fees can be misleading. If you watch his highlights video, Benjamin Nygren, he looks like a player. Is this guy the real deal? 1.7 million, 1.5 in add-ons. He looks like a proper player. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel as if he's a signing that Celtic have been missing, especially in the wake of Matt O'Reilly's exit last year. We spoke about it before coming on air. Matthias Bogus, who was linked with Celtic last year, the Polish international from LAFC. He's now at Cruz Azul, but looking at his highlights reel, it just seems like a really similar type of player. He's creative. He might not carry a lot of pace, which would, if Celtic fans are watching, that would probably concern me. But I think he's going to.
He plays a number 10.
I think he's going. That's what I was going to say. I think he's going to play a more kind of central role, and perhaps in the mould of Matt O'Reilly. You saw last season when Rio Hatate was missing, especially in the Scottish Cup final. Celtic really lacked that creative spark, and somebody that can score from nothing. So I think Benjamin Nygren is the type of player that is going to bring that spark to Celtic. You can only judge him in the highlights reel from people we've spoken to as well. Swedish journalist, he's really highly rated, and at what £1.2 million is it, or £3 million? It seems a right bargain.
And I think that's true. The one thing that I found out for a couple of people I spoke to is that he's got a hit for himself, but in the best possible way. He believes he's a top player. Mm-hmm. He's flown for Sweden, straight in the Sweden national team. You've got these amazing talents like Gyökeres, Isak. He's probably going to go to a World Cup next summer if it's a good season for Celtic in that squad. He's total belief. I mean, you watch him play as well, he is silky smooth. That inside, he's been playing on the right side for Northland, and he's full of talent, full of top goals. I think he might have a few goal of the month candidates when he's here. But he feels like he gives Celtic an option, a Rogic-esque option as a number 10 for the bigger games as well. I think he could be a really important player. And again, it does show that Celtic, probably Peter Law, Michael Nicholson will feel over the years, have maybe too harshly marked for their transfer business. But the amount of those signings between the 1 to 5 million range that have paid off. So it's not everyone has worked, but there's been a few that really, and it feels preordained that I think it's going to be the same for Nygren. One player staying at Celtic about transfers here, a totally different scenario. Austin Trusty, probably the most polarising player within himself to play for Celtic in recent memory. Johan Mjällby-esque European performances, elite level player, in some Atalanta away, Bayern Munich at home, the 2-1 defeat, probably the best player in the park. He was excellent that night, but he has struggled mightily dealing with the more physical style of player you come up against in Scotland. Industrial, we'll call them, strikers, but that's part of Scottish football. You have to be able to do both. But do you think he's a player who, if teams across Europe are looking at his stats, go, he was brilliant, would you cash in on him to open up the potential to find a starter? If he's got to be in that fringe role, is it too risky? Is he too good a player? Do you make your move and find a real partner for Carter Vickers, because fans don't believe Liam Scales is that guy. How would you play it?
For me, he reminds me very much of Kelvin Wilson, who I actually just interviewed earlier this week, and I actually asked him about Austin Trusty as well. Kelvin Wilson took a season to find his feet. He was in and out. He had a couple of injuries. The second season, he really, he felt really settled and established himself. It took one performance for Kelvin Wilson to say, this is the turning point, this is when I'm going to become a Celtic player, and he became a mainstay in that Champions League run. I think with Austin Trusty, if there's no offers that come in, I think he's worth a second season. You can't write off a £6 million signing. He's a USA international. I think he gets on well with Cameron Carter-Vickers. I think he's proven at Champions League level, at elite level,
that's the thing. The performances are so standout. Like he's been,
but like you say, the rough nature of Scottish football. It's I remember that game at Dundee. Can you remember Brendan Rodgers? I think it was lip reading experts.
Weak as powder.
Yes, that's one way to say it. So he has got a lot to prove in his second season. I think he'll know that as well. So I think unless Celtic can recoup their money this season, I would stick with him. I do think Celtic will bring in defensive reinforcements for a left-sided player. Cameron Carter-Vickers is obviously number one at centre-back, but they really need a solid partner.
When you factor in the Roche, Lagerbielke, both probably likely to leave. It just feels it has to be because Trusty, I think we've argued the case pretty well, hopefully, there in the terms that he's got a lot of ability to perform at a big level. There is obviously the issue with you can't trust him domestically, but it feels it has to be for a starter level. Like going that fee again, can't be. Listen, you can have just talking about finding bargains at lower fees, but they really need to find that partner, don't they, for Carter Vickers?
Yeah.
And maybe that will happen over the summer. Talking about another player who's been on the Celtic transfer radar for a long time, but it doesn't appear Parkhead will be his next destination, is Lennon Miller. His dad revealed last week that he's got his eyes on a move abroad. Is Serie A perfect for him? Is he the next one that's going to be Serie A? Or do you see another league where you think Lennon Miller would go and rip it up, or would he just do well anywhere?
Serie A seems to be a trailblazing league for young Scots, so you'd think that it all points in that direction. I don't know. I think Lennon Miller has shown that I think he could be a generational talent. We've said that so many times about young Scotland players coming through. Billy Gilmore's a prime example. He's just won Serie A, so perhaps that is the case. But Lennon Miller really looks to be the real deal. He said himself he's got lofty ambitions. He feels he's capable of playing at the highest level. He's probably felt that he's done it in Scottish football, and he feels that by moving abroad that he can really take his game to the next level. And looking at the case studies with people even forget about Liam Henderson. Look how well he's been doing.
Absolutely fantastic.
There's just so many success stories over there at the minute, and I think Serie A would be the next stepping stone for him. But what I would say is, if a club like Borussia Dortmund comes in for him, yes, that looks like that's the glitzy signing, the glitzy move that everybody would love him to make, but he needs to be playing football. Is he going to play for Borussia Dortmund? No, he'll probably go in there and head out on loan. I think his next step, he needs to be playing, and his dad said that as well, he needs to be playing week in, week out, and continue developing into the player that he really can be.
That's a very good point. You mentioned Dortmund there. Dortmund landed Joe Bellingham, Jude's brother, but they were Eintracht Frankfurt were strongly linked with him as well. They missed out. Could he that back in the club as well? Another thing as well, with Lennon Miller, he's analytics approved, because Tony Bloom, USG, Udinese, their model, every club that really is big in data and analytics thinks Lennon Miller's one of the best young midfielders in Europe. He'll go on to prove it. If anyone's been these cut, if you sit and interview him, he's one of the nicest boys you'll ever meet as well. And I think everyone, just like Billy Gilmore, Scott McTominay, Lewis Ferguson, he feels destined for a really bright future. So that's the Lennon Miller. I think the sky's his limit, and we'll see what comes over the summer.
Definitely.
Talking about wanted men, Josh Mulligan, that was a wee transfer surprise all night, and I think Hibs probably needed it as a wait for Triantis. And so that's a player who's obviously been profiled for this great Dundee team of players. Luke McCown to Celtic, Lyle Cameron to Rangers. Now, look for a while, Mulligan might be going there, but I know there'd always been interest elsewhere. That's does that show where Hibs are, who Hibs are under David Gray? A really solid team. He's a really solid player. Is that just a real statement intent where this Hibs team's going? With Michelin on the horizon as well. And listen, there's no Michelin's manager says, so we'll make it through against Hibs. there's been over the years Scottish teams that Josh Mulligan's a proper player. Hibs are really back, aren't they?
Yeah, he's another one. I spoke to Tony Docherty about him last week, and he said had nothing but great things to say about him. I think his versatility for one is going to be essential for Hibs. I think.
Where will he play for Hibs, do you think?
Do you know, I like him. I know he's played in midfield, but I like him as a right wing back. I really do.
Cross the Cadden.
Yeah.
One Cadden for.
Yeah. Well,
sorry, Chris.
I know. I do. I like him as a right wing back, but I think he'll go in there, and I think he'll become a starter either way. It depends. I don't know. I'm not sure what David Gray's plans are for him in a minute, but to get a lad like that in a free transfer at his age as well, and it shows the potential he's got as well.
Yeah, Hibs would not have made that signing a year ago, 2 years. They just were not that destination club at that point. But there was the best thing about Hibs last year is how solid they were. Like you always Hibs, it's the famous phrase, but the opposite of that, they were just really. So, and Josh Mulligan, honestly, he's got another big move in. Hibs probably want to see him play first, but it's a really interesting signing. Good for Scottish football. That just a nice mix across the clubs of players.
And I'm going to throw this in here, but it wasn't a popular appointment. But Malcolm Mackay, he's doing a decent job as well.
Yeah, he's got a great eye for play. He has. And I think he's working at Ross County. Him and David Gray seem like a really good team that way. Like they've just it is working very well. And I think that is important as well. You hope Dundee keep producing players and be able to keep their opus. It's just a nice mix when you get players across Scotland.
The problem for Dundee is they're letting these guys go at the end of the contract. Luke McCowan had a year left in his contract. Celtic pulled off a bargain, got him for $1 million. You talk about Rangers losing players for a club of Dundee's size. They really need to be cashing them in times right as well.
And there's maybe an unfair. We're probably going slightly off topic, but it is unfair in these clubs where the bigger clubs sometimes know when the contracts are up as well. Aye. So these players maybe a year in advance know that maybe time's up. So we're moving from the round ball to an egg-shaped ball. Your favourite, you're a big rugby man. The British and Irish Lions are red hot favourites to beat Australia in the latest tour, and this is an interesting one to me anyway. But while British and Irish Lions don't have a great history, they win one, they lose a couple of series here and there. But Australia, this is not the Australian rugby team of old. And even after losing their opening game against Argentina, Andy Farrell's team are expected to go to Australia and win the series, right? Is there an argument, right, that this format when you get lumped against a country, is it not time to broaden it a bit and make it a select side and make it, or is that maybe becoming a bit exhibition? Is this old? I think of all the old school things we see in the globe, is maybe the British and Irish Lions, is the format flawed in its current guise, do you think?
Look, cards on the table. I'm not the biggest rugby fan, as you kind of teased there, but what I will say is I have friends that are right in the rugby, and it is a money spending tournament first of all. So on that basis, I think the current format will be staying as it is. I mean, it'll be everybody's cup of tea, but they're still selling out the stadium, so there's still a demand for tickets as well. It is a popular event. Some of my friends view it as a bucket list event as well, and it's it's every 4 years as well. So professionals probably view it among the kind of peak moments of their careers as well.
There's probably a cynical element as well that I'm.
Yeah, it's funny, go mate.
That the cynical element is the fact that it's probably British and Irish Lions are never the favourites to go in, and the Lions are never, but suddenly they are, and it's almost as the format dated. I think just there seems to be a malaise, a bit of a feeling that we can't keep doing. We're a better team than Australia, but it's not always the case. They don't win enough series. Maybe it's a cynical look at it as well. When you were
I was going to say I actually like the kind of idea of the British and Irish Lions as well. Would it ever work in football?
Well, we saw it at the 2012 Olympics as well. There's enough to listen. That was not a political incident, but I would like to see that as well. I think I know in England team as well, you'd like to see the best of. Could be a good wee team at the World Cup.
Well, the thing is, if it's they would probably just call it all the English players again.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you left England out, you could have Scotland's midfield.
Exactly. Yeah.
Poor rugby fans. The rugby fans are tuned in a lot. Game on, one rugby question. We're straight back to the round ball game. So here we go. We're going to just a wee bit of fun, and there's going to be a few of these questions over the summer. Is a wee about Celtic. Henrik Larsson, there is no player more regarded as the best Celtic player probably in many fans' eyes of all time, but Jimmy Johnson still holds that place, Billy McNeil as well, for an older generation of supporter. But the 21st century, the king is the king for Celtic. But who, if you took the Swede away, who would be the second best player to play for Celtic in the 21st century?
I'm really torn. I think in terms of loyalty, I think you've got to look at Callum McGregor, Scott Brown, James Forrest, these sort of guys. Callum McGregor has been, exceptional. He's still going. I think he's got another 2-3 years left in him. He's easily been the best midfielder in Scotland for 5, 6, 7 years. Scott Brown, I say he's been easily the best midfielder in Scotland. Scott Brown, his peak was unbelievable as well. Second most successful captain in Celtic's history. And then you've got James Forrest, the one club man. He divided opinion back in his younger days, but now I think people look back and appreciate just how much he's contributed to the club. Most decorated player in Celtic's history. So I think in terms of what achievements, you've got those guys. In terms of special talents, obviously you've got Virgil van Dijk. He was only there for 2 years. I don't think he comes into the conversation on that basis. But then you've got talents like Shinsuke Nakamura, who I think was unbelievable, so incredibly gifted. And I think you've got another player as well up your sleeve.
I just think times forgot a certain player, Lubomir Moravcik, who were liberal to people that watched him at the time. Just this was a talent of a different level, wasn't it? I think you could from trapping the ball with his backside, but there was more than that. It was the most two-footed player to probably play in Scotland ever.
Yeah,
ridiculous free kick taker,
set pieces,
and then it was a craziness of it all as well. That this guy in his early 30s, not well known around Europe. This is a pre-internet era as well. I think it's fair to admit that. I think there wasn't analytics, there wasn't widescreen. Mm-hmm. You just a player signed and that was it. But he had such an ability, a unique ability in Scottish football that him and Larsson, those couple of years they played together, it was they were never probably paired that way because it was always a striker. It was Sutton and Viduka at the start, but this maverick talent, and Martin O'Neill had a very set way 3-5-2 of playing, but he always had space for Moravcik. And I think in terms of pure ability, there's probably not been a player in Scotland, just raw talent. And I think the stories about Zidane in the 90s who came up with playing in France, that he was a player who he was on his radar as well, like playing against as well. So I think he's a proper talent.
Agreed, I can't really argue with that.
Yeah, and then to finish us off, we're going down to SW19. I've got the strawberries, you've got the cream. It's the fun of the summer, isn't it? Everyone likes Wimbledon. So Jack Draper, and I would say that's maybe slightly under the radar, has gone from top 15, top 10 player after now he's like he's wonderful, exactly, number 4 in the world. Proper talent, seems a real hard-court player, but can he go on and really take on Sinner and Alcaraz and win Wimbledon? I think when Andy Murray retired, there was a general sense that there would maybe not be a winner for a while, but he is in the mix. He's one of the proper players. Can he win Wimbledon?
It's scary to think this is going to be the first Wimbledon in 20 years without Andy Murray, isn't it?
Oh, unbelievable.
I think for Draper, I think the home crowd is going to be massive for him. He's going to be a big advantage. I think he's already come out and said that he's confident, and he's already got a quote here. He says he's ready to make centre court my environment. So
Draper's den.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the crowd could be crucial for him. I think that could really drive him on. He's a really impressive boy. He's only 23. He's got tons of years ahead of him. His world number 4 as well. He's going to avoid the top 3 seeds, which will probably lead to a favourable route to the final for him. He obviously won't face the world number 1 Sinner or Alcaraz until at least the semi-finals, although he could face Djokovic in the quarters. So it'll be interesting to see. I think maybe it might be too soon for him. I'm not sure if he'll be among the heavy favourites at the minute, but I'd love to see him go all the way. It'd be great. Yeah,
he played really well. Semi-final against Sinner at the US Open last year. He was having sickness bug moments, but he's gutsy. He's really gutsy. I actually really like him in the 5 sets. I think he's a good 5-set player. He'll stick in there. And the problem, even at Queen's, he lost in the semi-finals at Queen's. He didn't play very well the whole tournament, but that's what I like. He's got that mix when he comes alive. Good serve, powerful player. You say not a grass court specialist is a thing of a past, serving volleying, but he's a player of proper talent, and he doesn't feel as fleeting. This feels like he is going to be a top 10 player over the next decade. So. And that's the crazy thing as well. Is like you win a slam early. There's no reason he can't go up. Sinner moved up, and he also is, I'd say, 18 months behind Sinner in terms of development for the reason he had such a bad run with injuries. It appeared that he was like, as a junior, he looked like he was going to be proper right up there right now. And the fact that he's got up to number 4 so quickly is a very encouraging sign. We're away to sign the paperwork to work out a longer term deal for Ryan after that impressive debut. He was nimble-footed there with the rugby question and everything, but I really appreciate you joining us, Ryan. There'll be plenty more over the summer and beyond. Thank you for listening and watching this week's episode of Game On. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you like what you hear, why not leave us a review or a comment? Obviously the nice ones. We'll be back in a fortnight. Next week's the 1 week off, and we'll be back again for one of your favourite quickfire questions. Have a great day and see you all soon. Take care.
Cheers.